It was entertaining, at least. It's a bunch of goals. I will tell you this. If you were trying to find out more about Pablo Torre, Iñaki Peña, Marc Casado, and Álvaro Sanz, this was a game for you, baby. This is a game that you would enjoy. These guys came on the field. Pablo Torre, incidentally, he actually fouled a player for Viktoria Plzen, and actually was a penalty kick. And then Pablo Torre himself went on to score a goal in a counter-attack. So it was a good debut for Pablo Torre in Champions League. If you wanted to see Thomas Tuchel, the center striker, big, strong striker for Viktoria Plzen, score 2 goals, this was a game for you. If you wanted to see Ferran Torres score a brace, yes!
There you go.
You're Ferran Torres. This was a game for you. If you're Barcelona and you're Xavi, this was always going to be a difficult match, so you give an opportunity to the most alternative team that you have available.
Before we get to you guys, Craig, this was Spurs, kind of as we've seen them all season. Don't turn up in the first half, and then something happens at half-time, and they're like, oh, we need to play.
Yeah, it's happening too many times, Dan. Look, I don't think anybody was suggesting, because this group was so tight before these games kicked off, I don't think anybody was suggesting it was going to be easy to go to France and just, roll them over, get the 3 points, get the job done, and come back. But my God, they just make life so difficult for themselves.
So dramatic, wasn't it?
I mean, you just look at the stats that we put up there, would tell a story. Yes, Højbjerg got the winner at the end, but it was because Marseille were throwing the kitchen sink looking for that goal. You've got to credit Tottenham for obviously getting the job done. It wasn't the toughest of groups. They have some injuries themselves. I just can't get my head around how negative they start games. 1-0 down at half-time, lucky to be only 1-0 down. 2-0 down at Bournemouth at the weekend. I mean, we can count numerous games this season where they just haven't started well. But all fairness to them, they came back and they got the job done. But boy, at 1-1, they were hanging on. They were hanging on by the fingernails.
Frank, Marseille will be kicking themselves when they, particularly in that first half, that they didn't make more of the dominance they had over Conte's side.
Yeah, they will, and rightfully, they will have nightmares tonight when they will all go to bed, because they could have gone through, or at least to go for the Europa League. But yeah, they had chances the first half, and they deserve to open the score. But that miss from Kolasinac, like 10 minutes before the end, it's for me really, really something I would never understand. I think it's harder to put it outside than to put it inside, and he made it. And it would have been, only fair, I think, that Marseille would go through, because Tottenham didn't want to play. That's what annoys me the most about Conte tactics. He has only one option, is to defend, and when everything goes badly, it changes everything. And fortunately, he had Bissouma in the middle of the park who did the job.
I don't know how far this side will go in this competition. I presume it won't be very far. You never know. They just frustrate me, because a lot of these guys are good footballers, can pass the ball and want to get on the front foot, but they rarely do, as has been mentioned, until the second half. Or they're frustrated and, chasing the game. Look, it wasn't quite Arsenal reserves who were playing, but there's a lot of Arsenal cast-offs in there.
Yes,
and there's Bailly on loan from Man United, and there's Payet's on the bench, and there's Alexis Sanchez, who's seeing out his career these days. And that's why you're thinking, yeah, you only need a point, but that's why you can, if you only need a point, you defend further up the field by keeping the ball and dominating a bit of possession. They can do it. They can pass the ball, and that's the frustrating thing about it. We could easily have been sat here with Marseille winning this game 2 or 3-1.
Yeah.
Easily. And I think Tottenham need to try and get away from defending so deep, because the deeper they defend against the better sides, the more goals they're going to lose and the more desperate they're going to get. And I think that's frustration. Look, Antonio Conte should have a bird's eye view today when he was in the stand of just how bad his team were in that first 45, because he's sitting up there and he can see the bigger picture. And it's just, I think, frustrating. Yeah, Tottenham fans will be celebrating, oh, we're in the last blah, blah, blah. We're in the knockout stages, this is great. But, my God, I just think there's so much more to come from this Tottenham side. even though they have some injuries to key players.
We know how well Conte has done, obviously in domestic competitions, hasn't been able to replicate that sort of form in Europe, Gab. What's interesting is that the pattern is there, and it's obvious for everyone to see that Spurs only really need to have their backs up against the wall until they start playing.
Yeah, because, when your back is up against the wall, you don't really have a choice, right? You have to go and take chances. We saw that at the weekend, obviously, as well, in them coming back from 2 goals down. Antonio Conte does not want to play this way. He does not want to set up to defend deep. And I think this is his frustration. It happens. It happens with the players he has on the pitch. It happens because, and I can assure you, from his seat up in the stands, he was probably shouting. And in fact, I could hear him all the way here in West London. He wants them to defend more proactively. If you look at when his teams are good, it's one of two things. Either he's got teams that are defending, but they're super comfortable defending. Think back to, the Juve days when you had Bonucci and Chiellini and Barzagli, and they could sit there all day and they were happy doing that. Or he wants teams that defend higher up the pitch and take the game to the opposition. Right now, this Spurs team is neither. And when they sit back, they're not comfortable sitting and defending. And I think it was very evident last night against a high energy Marseille side.
Atletico Madrid's season went from bad to worse on Tuesday. A 2-1 defeat against Porto means that they're completely out of Europe. They knew going into this time they weren't going to qualify for the knockout stages of the Champions League. Needed a result in Portugal, couldn't get it. So in the end, they finished bottom of the group, so won't even be in the Europa League come 2023. Ali Moreno was keeping an eye on this game. Oh dear, Ali.
Oh dear is right. Now, a few points about this game, just in case you need a little bit of context. Jan Oblak was the best player for Atletico Madrid. In the first half, he had to come up with save after save after save. And it just really gives you a sense of what Atletico Madrid is right now. Following the disappointment from last week, then disappointment over the weekend in losing to Cádiz. And then you think, all right, well, at some point, at the very least, Atletico Madrid is going to show some fight. Not really. Already down 2-0, 27th minute, ball goes out of bounds on the left-hand side, final third. Porto just goes and gets the ball naturally. It's not like they're hurrying up. They get the ball, they throw the ball in, and it's all of a sudden they have a 1v1 situation in front of Jan Oblak, while Atletico Madrid are just simply kind of walking, slow jogging back, and you're thinking, this is not Atletico Madrid. So to that point, I would say this. Any other manager in a similar circumstance, if it wasn't Diego Simeone in Atletico Madrid, that manager would be in a lot of trouble. We know Diego Simeone and the relationship with Atletico Madrid. We know what he means to the club, and so therefore he's not going anywhere unless he decides to walk away himself whenever he decides to do so. But this club right now seems to be getting worse rather than better, and we do not know when is it that things are going to turn around. And I don't think Simeone knows that either.
It's crazy, Ali, when you think of it and you think of what he's achieved at this club. It is damaging his legacy. Inevitably, it was going to fall apart at one stage or another. No manager is perfect forever. But all the chips seem to be, all the buzz seems to be in his court with regards to his future and what he wants to do. You look at the personnel that's on the pitch, they're surely good enough to play better than they are. That's why all the blame seems to be falling at his feet.
Absolutely. And when you think of the personality of Diego Simeone and when you think of what he wants his club and his team to do on the field, we always think about intensity and energy and fight, and we're going to defend well. Well, that's not happening. And so if that's not happening, but you're also not attacking very well, you're also not creating a lot of opportunities, you're also not scoring a lot of goals, then what is it that he's going to hang on to? It was supposed to be that the return of Jose Maria Jimenez and Savic was going to be the key to the success of Atletico Madrid in Champions League, because they were going to solidify this back line. Well, they've returned and they're still allowing goals. So if the personality Simeone is about defending, it's about fighting, it's about intensity, it's about energy, you watch the first half today, there was none of that from Atletico Madrid. So that's a referendum on the players, of course, but certainly on Diego Simeone himself. So we have to start asking the question, I mean, are these players into what Diego Simeone is saying anymore? Or is the message getting older? Is the message just simply not coming through? Is the yelling and screaming and the intensity and the energy sort of, at this point, useless? Because we don't really get the best version of Atletico Madrid. We don't get them defending. We don't get them attacking. We just get them surviving on the field, and eventually things break down.
I mean, his style of play only has credibility when you have success or relative success.
Which he's had a lot of with it.
Which he's had success, but he hasn't had success. If we look at managers who play in a similar way, and we've talked at length, not just today, but over the last few weeks, about Antonio Conte, who's probably more progressive than Diego Simeone, and that's saying a lot. And then we look at Jose Mourinho. Three managers in a kind of similar mindset. Not exactly, but similar. Certainly Conte and Mourinho have had huge success. He's had some success, Diego Simeone. But that credibility starts to fall away when results start to fall away and the football's dire. Now, Atleti fans think he's the Messiah, and they will do to a certain point, and then that has to change. The game has changed. The game has changed. 30 years ago, it was okay to play this way. But that was when teams played with two big strikers and four defenders, and, you know, the whole game was different. Fans have always wanted to be entertained, but never more than now. It's more expensive to go and watch the game. It can be consumed by more people because it's on every day, every weekend, every TV screen around the world. People are more knowledgeable now about what they're seeing and what they're paying for. And quite frankly, unless you're getting the results, and he's not, this style is archaic. And there is no excuse now for him, because he's going to be going in after the World Cup to La Liga, and there's no blame in European football. It's La Liga, week in, week out, domestic competition, and it's up to him to turn it around. But this is not just... It's not just now. This was the whole of last season.
In Group A, Liverpool defeated Napoli by 2-0 to give them all 3 points in the final group stage match at Anfield. In the end, it doesn't really matter, though. Napoli finished top of the group, Liverpool second. Of course, both teams were guaranteed a place in the knockout stages before this game kicked off. I know Gab and Robbo were keeping an eye on this. Gab, Napoli are rubbish. You were wrong about them.
Yeah, clearly they were rubbish because... you know, it's not as if they went out there and really, I thought, had the upper hand for most of the game. It was interesting to me that he played most of his regulars, whereas Liverpool mixed it up a little bit. Both have big games coming up at the weekend. It's first versus second in Serie A as they play Atalanta. And, of course, Liverpool play Spurs. But I think this game could have easily gone either way. I'm actually probably, I thought, Napoli shaded it despite the late Liverpool goals, but hey-ho, it's their first defeat of the season.
What do we learn from this, Robbo, if anything?
About Napoli, that they are a good side. You could see they were well organised. Yes, they lost the game 2-0 and late goals, but I thought their organisation, particularly in the first half, the way they tried to counter-attack, the way they played around pressure, the understanding of how they were going to play out from the back, I thought they looked a good side. And you're always going to have a threat going in behind with Osimhen. You know, Liverpool defended well. And I knew Liverpool would defend well right at the start of the game, where Fabinho commits 2 tackles and gets away with it. Milner crashes into another tackle. The referee lets him get away with it. That's what happens at Anfield. And once the referee lets Liverpool get away with challenges like that, you know they're going to have every chance of winning the game. It's absolutely disgusting, I think.
Oh, Robbo's anti-Liverpool ways. It's ever since the Champions League final. It's like shouting at Stevie for being Liverpool TV. He's taking it the other way now.
I mean, you got to think that Napoli, who've been so good this year, knew that barring a disaster, they're top in the group. Yeah. You got to feel that they were in second gear, weren't they? They're such a good side. Look, you and I were watching the Tottenham game because it was sort of ebbing and flowing, or not ebbing and flowing, so to speak, in the first half. So yeah, you know, as Gab mentioned, Napoli have got their eye on a huge game at the weekend. They're a goal-scoring phenomenon at the moment, generally, domestically. They are going to be a huge threat in the Champions League, I think. I mean, they're clearly huge favourites for Serie A at the moment. but I think they're going to be a huge threat in the Champions League, the way they play and with the threat they've got up front and from the middle of the park. And for Liverpool, I mean, how many times are we going to sit here this year and say, is this the kickstart to their season?
Right.
Who knows? We thought it would have been.
Wow, look at the bookies.
After the
Liverpool
Man City
15-2, Napoli are 14-1. Tell you what, Napoli aren't a bad bet, are they?
No, I would say, if you said to me now, a two-legged affair between Napoli and Liverpool, I'd pick Napoli all day.
Yeah.
All day, over 180 minutes.
This is a silly question considering it's you, Robbo, but who will go further in the Champions League, Napoli or Liverpool?
I think I'm hoping Napoli do, because I think they are a good side. Kvaratskhelia, I think, looks an outstanding player coming from that left-hand side. He can run with the ball. He went past Alexander-Arnold a couple of times in the first half. I think he looks a good player. And they look well organised. And Spalletti, I think, is a top-class manager. He's proved that over the years. I think they could win. They should win Serie A, and they could get into maybe the last eight of the Champions League.
What's Liverpool done to you, Robbo?
Not a lot. You know, I think Liverpool under Klopp over the years have been a very good side, but I don't think they're a particularly good side at the moment. And I personally think that, having looked at Klopp over the lot and listened to his press conference yesterday, I think he needs to take a leaf out of Guardiola's book and say, I need a rest. I need to go away take a sabbatical, come back with another club at some point and prove what a world-class manager I am. Because at the moment, he looks a man that's short on ideas and he's losing the plot slightly.
So Stuart Robson calls for Jurgen Klopp to quit Liverpool?
No, I would say for his own benefit and so the benefit of Liverpool, at some point, he's got to come away and his family must look at him and say, you're not the same man that you were when you first came to Liverpool. Arsene Wenger did exactly the same. They lose their focus and they then start to go away from what they should be doing.
How hard or easy is it for players to go from an ultra-defensive mindset or tactics to having to now go offensive? Do players not prefer being active rather than reactive at the start of a game? This obviously in...
Well, I'll tell you what, during the show, there was a little bit of love coming back for Conte, and I know he's a good coach, but honestly, at the moment, if you said to me, who's in charge of Tottenham, the way they're playing, Mourinho or Conte, I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference.
Right. That's
how dull and boring it is until they're asked to come out of their shell, to the point of the tweet, to come out of their shell and go and play. The answer to the question is not ideal, try to switch it on and off like a light bulb. However, players will react in desperation and can usually cope with that kind of thing. But yeah, you know, you'd want them to be on the front foot. That's how City and Liverpool over the last 3-4 years, whatever it is, have had their success, by coming out and smothering teams and getting on the front foot and pushing teams back. And it just seems Tottenham are either unable to do it, which I find slightly, I don't believe that with the players they've got, or they just don't want to do it.
Frank, how long before a match did you know the starting lineup?
Well, normally around 5 p.m., you know, we have a meeting just after having a little snack. We have a meeting with the coach, and he put the lineup and give us the start 11. It's normally where you know exactly who's going to play and who's going to be on the bench. This is the day before? No, that's the afternoon. When I used to play at 8 p.m. in France, that was around 5 p.m. And in England, when we played at 3 p.m., I would say that the coach had a meeting around 12:30, maybe 1, and he was putting the 11 names. That's the only time that I was told who's going to play alongside me.
Robbo, do you think Arsenal can keep up this pace and push City to the end of the season?
I think they've got quite a good chance of doing that. They're playing some good football at the moment. They're playing with high intensity. They're closing the ball down, all the things that Spurs aren't doing. We saw that in the Arsenal-Spurs game. They're creative. They've got wide players that can come in and score goals. Jesus is playing at the top of his game. Odegaard looks a good player now, playing in behind them. So I think they've got every chance of having a great season and coming second, but they won't catch Manchester. Manchester City is still the best side in England, but they're going to have a good season, and I think they'll have a good run in Europe as well.
Robbo, just one question. Do you think they can go the whole year and have relative success, if that's pushing Man City or finishing second? But do you think they can do that for the whole year with a centre-half at right-back and a right-back at left-back?
Analysing Spurs some more, Frank. What is this style of play? Very, very passive first half. Is this planned?
I didn't get the first. What the style of play?
Yeah, for Spurs.
Of what? Of Spurs? Well, again, I don't know. I think it's like, and Craig talked about that and mentioned the name of Mourinho, where, you know, we were all complaining the way that he was playing and the fact that Son and Kane couldn't play at the level they wanted to play and they were defending too much. I see that again with Conte this season. So I was told during the show by Robo and Gab that is not what he wants to do, but that's what I see. And that's what I see every time that they start defensively very, very deep. And then suddenly, when they know that they might lose, they dramatically change and get offensive. So I'm saying that maybe they can find a middle way to please everybody and to let me think that there is another option for Conte to make that team play better. And the way they can play better is to be higher on the field and believe that they have enough qualities to play more offensively. But I'm sorry, the only style and the only option that I see from Conte is to play defensively with that team. And I think it's wrong.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.